very good evening. You're watching India Sense. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. This is your show that gets you all the news and views that matter to every global Indian. First up, the headlines as always.
निश्चित रूप से इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड से आने वाले $1 बिलियन के बड़े हिस्से को टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को फंड करने में इस्तेमाल होगा, ऐसा मेरा मानना है।
Islamabad is on probation. India sends a strong message to Pakistan as it seeks to put an end to the financial helplines that keep the Pakistani terror factory thriving. As boycott calls grow louder, India sends decodes the Pakistan-Turkiye nexus from drones to trade. The thriving relationship has anti-India sentiment at its very core. From Jerusalem to Kiev, from the Red Sea to New Delhi, the world is asking the same question. Can we trust America? Trump's hollow deal-making skills expose the risks that lie ahead for an uncertain Trump presidency. And University of Berkeley, California cancels the Hindu Heritage Month, branding it a gateway to Hindu nationalism. We ask, why play politics with identity and weaponize progressivism to shut a community out? In the last 24 hours, India has sent 3 very important and strong messages to Pakistan with one clear intent, which is to mend your ways. The first key message, Operation Sindoor is still underway. It hasn't ended. Yes, there is a ceasefire understanding, but it's just that, an understanding. Pakistan is on probation. It means India is watching how it deals with terror and the infrastructure that the state has allowed to thrive. And any misadventure will mean an appropriate response. The second message that has been given to Pakistan very clearly, there should be a global monitoring of Pakistan's nuclear weapons pile. There is no country in the world that is as unstable, with terrorists being mainstreamed as part of foreign policy agenda, with a more powerless civilian government as Pakistan, and which is why its nuclear weapons are a global problem. Add to it the policy that it has of no nuclear restraint. The third key message that India has given to Pakistan, New Delhi knows that the financial helplines that IMF and others are giving to Pakistan will end up building the terror infrastructure and the ecosystem, which is why India will now focus to ensure that these financial helplines stop coming in. Listen in to Defence Minister Rajnath Singh speaking from Bhuj, the air base that played a pivotal role in Operation Sindoor.
निश्चित रूप से इंटरनेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड से आने वाले $1 बिलियन के बड़े हिस्से को टेरर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को फंड करने में इस्तेमाल होगा, ऐसा मेरा मानना है। क्या यह नेशनल मॉनेटरी फंड IMF द्वारा, जो कि एक इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है, उसके द्वारा इनडायरेक्ट फंडिंग इसे नहीं माना जाएगा? मैं दुनिया के लोगों के सामने यह सवाल रखना चाहता हूं। इसलिए मैं मानता हूं कि आज के समय में पाकिस्तान को किसी भी तरह की आर्थिक सहायता टेरर फंडिंग से कम नहीं है।
Viewers, there's another reason and factor that Defence Minister today and Prime Minister day before spoke at India's key air bases that were involved in Operation Sindoor to show the world that there was zero impact from any of the Pakistani drones that Islamabad unleashed, and to bust the propaganda that Pakistan has been going on again and again, saying to the world, which is why these visuals are so important. And contrast that with Shahbaz Sharif and the antics. He in fact came in on a tank where tanks had no role whatsoever to play in Operation Sindoor. He could not show to his people the devastation of the 9 air bases that India's precise strikes caused, and which is why it was so important for Shahbaz Sharif to come up with those clownish level antics that the world has seen through, and the Pakistani people should also now be seeking into. The message is loud and clear. Antics don't work. It's the clear messaging that India has given that matters. Viewers, it's time to now tell you the deep nexus between Pakistan and Turkey. Is it friendship or fire? Or is it an alignment of deeper religious Islamic values? The two countries call it brotherhood. Well, if you take the numbers, the weapons, the war games, it's a completely different story, all leading towards a sharp anti-India position. There are drones, there are submarines, and then there is the ideology that puts them all together. What's the provocation all about? What's these misadventures all about? This report tells you that entire nexus in detail.
They said it started in 1951, a treaty of eternal friendship. Now, try this. $1.5 billion in arms, 24 defense deals already this year. 10% of Turkey's weapons shipped straight to Pakistan. Not food, not aid, weapons, warships and drones. Islamabad is now Ankara's #2 arms customer, second only to the UAE. Submarines under construction, drones already delivered, attack helicopters stalled only because the US said no. And it's not just tech, it's training, tactics and target alignment. And here's the twist. Since 2019, Turkey's tone has shifted from silence to slander. Three things changed: pro-Pakistan rants, anti-India rallies, and open support on the fabricated Kashmir narrative. We didn't blink, we acted. Propaganda outlets banned, Turkish firm Kool-Aid out, and even the postponement of the credential ceremony featuring the Turkish ambassador deferred due to scheduling issues, the MEA points out. And it's not only the Indian government. Tourism bookings to Turkey are down 60%. Cancellations are up 250%. It's a message louder than any tweet. 1.4 billion Indians will not fund those who undermine us, those who sponsor or aid terror. With every click cancelled, we strike. Meanwhile, Pakistan's economy remains on life support. A $3 billion IMF handout, grain shortages, blackouts, and unending deficit. Yet, what gets funded? Drones, subs, and propaganda. Bureau Report, NDTV.
The docking of the Turkish Chandar-class anti-submarine corvette at Karachi port on 2nd of May was a message, and India has taken that message. Banning Chalabi aviation could be just the beginning. This is a military and trade partnership that's cast in stone by Erdogan's aspiration to lead the Muslim world. Boycott calls will only grow louder as India makes shifts towards its geopolitical realignment and economic relationships. Viewers, once upon a time when America spoke, the world listened. When she extended a hand, allies took it, confident it wouldn't pull the rug out from under them. But now, well, it seems that America no longer stands beside those it once called friends or allies. And in fact, Trump's first foreign policy visit is to the Middle East, and it doesn't include Syria. That's an important point. This after a bipartisan support for Israel going back to the country's inception. Soon after Yemen's Houthis launched missiles, the US signed a ceasefire deal with them. A global terror threat. Israel left in the lurch. The message was very simple: you are on your own. And Netanyahu knew it. It seems that the Houthis got a handshake while Israel got the cold shoulder. Now look at South Asia. Trump made false claims about brokering peace between India and Pakistan, but India set the record straight. No brokering, no back-channel heroics, just empty boasts. And when the dust settled, there were possible trade threats that were thrown in by the Team Trump, his pet playbook, except India did not give in to any of those threats that came in.
Just days ago, my administration successfully brokered a historic ceasefire to stop the escalating violence between India and Pakistan, and I used trade to a large extent to do it. I said, fellas, come on, let's make a deal. Let's do some trading. Let's not trade nuclear missiles. Let's trade the things that you make so beautifully.
But trading truth for theater, that's a dangerous game. Donald Trump should know that. And then there is Ukraine. Zelensky continues to get the raw end of the stick. Trump promised to end the war in 24 hours, and that turned out to be sarcasm, or so he says now. Aid delayed, promises withdrawn, a peace plan that vanished quicker than a campaign speech applause. I'll end the war, Trump had said. Instead, he's paused the support and berated Zelensky for not surrendering Crimea. Meanwhile, he cozies up to Pakistan, the same government whose intelligence services have long walked hand in hand with extremism. And now he has legitimized, mainstreamed, embraced Syria's al-Shara regime, a terrorist who had a $10 million bounty on his head just 6 months back. What's happening? Well, America used to be the lighthouse in the storm, and today it's become the weather. Unpredictable, unsteady, stormy. In backing away from old friends and embracing bad actors, America is sending a signal: we only dance when it suits us. But alliances aren't built on music that stops when the partner is tired. America first? Sure. But at what cost? Because today, from Jerusalem to Kiev and from New Delhi to the Red Sea, the world is asking the same question: can we trust America? Viewers, the echo coming back is just long silence. On that note, we slip into a very short break. We come back on the other side. We unpack the Dhaka, Islamabad, Beijing triangle of tension and the wall of wokeness that's hit the Hindu Heritage Month at UC Berkeley. Stay with us. Viewers, top voice this week is from Saudi Arabia. It was the first stop in Trump's three-nation tour to the Middle East, which had business as its top agenda. And we have Dirya and Zerello, who's the CEO of Dirya company, joining us live from Riyadh to talk more about what it was in terms of the meeting and the discussions that happened. So thank you so much for speaking to NDTV. You were part of the delegation that spoke to the American CEOs, to Donald Trump. First, I want to understand from you your first impressions of this meeting that took place.
Yes, this was a really truly historic visit on many levels. Diplomatically, commercially, geopolitically, sociologically. And, it's interesting because when you're elected president of the United States, it's only the second time in American history that you had a gap of 4 years in between another presidency. So for the president to come back to Saudi Arabia 8 years later, because on his first trip, Vision 2030 was just starting to take root. But now to see the sociological transformations and to see all the women thriving in the workplace, and like he met one of our chief architects on the models that we presented him of today, and he was just so impressed with her and the team, a Saudi woman, because 39% of our staff are Saudi women, superstars. So he was very impressed with that, very impressed with the progress that was made. So instead of seeing renderings all over the kingdom, and then, he goes to Qatar and the Emirates, which are also doing remarkably well. So I think he was very surprised with the deliverables.
That's an important point you make, which brings me to ask you, what, according to you, were the biggest takeaways from this high-profile meeting between the US CEOs and, of course, important CEOs from the Middle East, including yourself?
I think the biggest takeaways were the fact that the two countries are so close. So now what's going to happen with technology in the future in terms of AI and chips and computering, the leadership role that Saudi wants to take in that, and the leadership role that America wants to take in it. Obviously, India is a giant player with its capabilities now globally in the tech sector. So the fact that there was so many contracts signed in computer development, AI, manufacturing of chips, and you had all the big leaders here. You had Elon Musk here, you had all of the big AI leaders, the CEOs here. It was a very productive trip.
Indeed. Which brings me to ask you, how do you see America's larger role in the region? Do you think business being at the core of this realigned relationship?
Well, I think there was two big agenda items. Obviously, business and commerce is huge, because what are you going to see in terms of development out of the Gulf in the next 10, 20, 30 years is going to be substantial. You know, you have very young heads of state now, all moderate, all vision forward looking, all tech driven, right? All quality of life heads of state. So that's great. And America has the expertise that the region wants. But look at the great leadership coming out of India now. Look where India was 30 years ago in terms of technology, both hardware and software. And you're one of the great leaders in the world now. So the same way there's a very strong relationship between America and India, there's now a very strong relationship between America and the Gulf and America.
It's a controversial trip when you talk about Trump's domestic audience. What do you think will be the biggest wins that President Trump will speak to his domestic audience when he concludes this trip?
The big takeaway is that everybody wants safety and security and quality of life in the Middle East. It's a big agenda of the president, you know, that people can live in peace and thrive and provide for their families and have opportunities for the next 10, 20, 30 years. One of the things that the president was very impressed about Saudi was that the population is very young. You know, the aggregate age is only 29.1, the median age, very educated, and they're very positive about the future. So if you're going to have a positive societies that are safe and secure, it promotes prosperity. The president has been very active in trying to be a peacemaker around the world, Ukraine, certainly Gaza, and with the Palestinian-Israeli issue. There was a big announcement with lifting the sanctions in Syria to give the wonderful people of Syria a chance to get back to a better quality of life for them and their families. So I think the big thing was peace and prosperity, ensuring safety and security in the region, which will benefit America and everyone. And then also using these contracts now to determine what the new technologies and new industries are going to be in the next 10 and 20 years, and having those relationships in place.
All right, we leave it there. Mr. Jerry, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV to decode that important business relationship between India and KSA. All right, shifting focus now to the other important story that's coming in from Bangladesh. Well, ever since Mohammad Yunus came to power in Bangladesh to form his interim government, Bangladesh has been inching closer to China. And where is that most evident? It is at the Siliguri Corridor, a strategic strip that connects India to our northern eastern states. And Mohammad Yunus has repeatedly made threats about restricting access to this piece of land that belongs to India. And in fact, it's now planning to set up an airport in this area that's just 30 kilometers away from Indian territory. It's supposed to be a civilian airport, but when China gets involved, it's clear that it will be used for surveillance and for sending a message to India. So here's the sequence, viewers. First, the Chinese officials came ostensibly to inspect the Bangladeshis' World War era airfield at Lal Munir Hat, followed by the Pakistani army and ISI, all coming there at a place which is 30 kilometers away from Indian territory. Why? Is it collusion between Bangladesh, Pakistan and China? Well, India knows this. The Tri-Shakti Corps guards the chicken's neck like a hawk. The skies hum with Rafales and the ground bristles with BrahMos. Make no mistake, India can strike deep into Lal Munir Hat before the dust even settles on the runway. Bangladesh's interim leader, Mohammad Yunus, is playing a dangerous game, trying to create an anti-India front for India's jugular. The chicken's neck is not India's Achilles heel. It is her iron collar. At the University of Berkeley, California, the birthplace of free speech, Truth is now on life support. A resolution to celebrate Hindu Heritage Month was buried alive by woke student leaders. The question is, are they drunk on their own moral Kool-Aid? Well, leading the charge is Senator Isha Chandar. And here's a cautionary tale of how virtue signaling can curdle into cultural erasure. Take a look.
A simple call to celebrate Hindu heritage ran headfirst into a wall of wokeness. At UC Berkeley, the Student Senate rejected a resolution to declare October as Hindu Heritage Month, branding it a gateway to Hindu nationalism. The author is a Caribbean-born Hindu student with no political ties, no agenda, just pride in her culture. Enter Senator Isha Chandar, waving the banner of inclusion while excluding an entire community. She called Hindus systematically privileged, suggesting heritage now needs a privilege check to qualify for celebration. Her fix was a bland catch-all resolution that erased Hindus from their own story. Senator Justin Taylor called it what it was: hypocrisy in plain sight. This wasn't equity, it was ideological gatekeeping. And here's the kicker. Berkeley Student Senate had no issue approving every other Heritage Month this year. Meanwhile, the same student government enthusiastically joined the BDS movement, demanding UC cut ties with Israel. So, global activism? Yes. Cultural pride for Hindus? No. The double standard spoke volumes. Hindu Heritage Month is celebrated across America, in Texas, Florida, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and dozens of campuses. It honors a diaspora that includes engineers, doctors, teachers, and scientists. It's about culture, not conflict. Berkeley's leaders could have embraced unity. Instead, they chose to play politics with identity, weaponizing progressivism to shut a community out. Bureau Report, NDTV World.
Well, viewers, the message is loud and clear. If your culture doesn't fit their narrative, you are out. Isha Chandar and her ilk have traded inclusion for exclusion, wrapped it in buzzwords and called it progress. But it looks like cultural censorship in the name of activism. Well, they say the darkest hour is just before dawn. In the scorched earth of Balochistan, long plundered for its gold, gas and granite, the sun is finally rising. And her name is Kashish Chri. At just 25, a daughter of the Hindu minority, from the forgotten dust of Noshki, she has broken the iron ceiling as the first Hindu woman assistant commissioner. In a land where silence has long been bought with bullets, her voice is a thunderclap. But Kashish isn't just a symbol of personal triumph, a signal that people of Balochistan, women, minorities and the unheard are no longer just biding their time. They are stepping up, speaking out and taking charge. For decades, Pakistani and China-backed powers have picked Balochistan to the bone, bleeding it dry in the name of development. But now, resistance isn't whispered, it roars. Kashish didn't just pass an exam, she lit a torch, and in the winds that now sweep through the mountains, there's more than just dust. There's, well, a scent of freedom. Ex-FBI chief entangled in possible assassination scandal. A regular social media post has given birth to a gigantic controversy in the US, leading to a storm of speculation, outrage and federal investigation. The post was shared by James Comey, the former FBI director who was once fired by Donald Trump. He is once again at the epicenter of a national controversy. So what is this post all about? It's a photograph of a seashell arrangement which appears innocent at first glance, but the numbers 86 and 47 point to something sinister. In the language of American slang, 86 is more than just a number. It's a code for killing. And 47 is directly associated with Trump, as the 78-year-old is the 47th president. Put them together and they become, and I quote, kill or eliminate Donald Trump. There are many questions that hover around this investigation. That what was he suggesting? Was it a subtle message? Was it a coincidence? Well, the Department of Homeland Security and the Secret Service are on high alert, peeling back layers of digital possibilities as to what could be next. Well, the authorities have a lot to investigate there. Well, viewers, as we wrap this edition of India Ascends, I leave you with this teaser of a very special conversation that we had with Colonel Kashish on para-special forces legends and what it means to actually be a soldier in fatigues. Take a look.
Missile can go Suk and 20.
उनके टेरर कैंप्स उड़ाए गए.
Red Devils, the coast operators, India's silent blades. कितना खतरा था इसमें?
आप गलत लोगों से पूछ रहे हैं. अगर खतरा नहीं होगा, you asking us जो खतरा ढूंढ करके जाते हैं. It is not tough or it is not challenging. We won't even take that.
वो पैरा सिर्फ के पास आएगा ही.
दूसरे लोग कर सकते हैं तो फिर वो कर.